timing for dividing for the specific type of plant. The method for dividing, some of them are more gentle than others. I mean, I've got my hatchet, which works pretty well for the moderately recalcitrant ones. There's an axe if we're getting more serious about this thing. The shovel, a shovel will work. A lot of times I'll use a serrated edge knife. That works great for cutting apart some of these. And again, some things we want to be more gentle with, like the denticulata primroses, the drumsticks. Those, as long as we wait till they're done blooming and, trim off the blossoms if we're not saving seeds, then I'll dig up the whole clump and wash the roots. That's a good way for most of these. But then if you do that at the timing like in, say, mid-June, they will pull apart by hand easily. Something like Dorothy here, which is a juliana, a Julie hybrid primrose, is a tough, I'm going to just chop through the center of it. Timing wise, I would normally be dividing these after they're done blooming. But they're tough enough. And again, some things are more delicate. Timing is more important. Again, if we do some rhubarb, from as soon as the ground is thawed until just before the ground freezes, middle of summer, it doesn't really matter. Usually I'll clip the flowers off because we won't want them anyway when we go to replant. So we just clip all the flowers off it.
Is that just because it's just taking too much energy?
Exactly, right. When we go to replant that, then, we don't want to have we want the plant to be growing roots, new roots, primarily. Some of these will break apart fairly easily, so I'll get nice little chunks when I'm replanting. A lot of times I'll have just a little piece of board or the edge of this, and I'll just saw through because the rhizomes they grow from are connected. Some of them are really, really tough. So again, I'll cut them into a nice sized chunk. Depends on what size pot I'm thinking about putting them into, or if I'm going to be putting them back into the garden. So that's a clump there. That may go into a gallon-sized pot next year. If I want to cut it down smaller, I can do them smaller for smaller future pots. But that's, and again, we'll shake the roots off, pull the weeds out. The worst thing is when we have horsetail growing up through the center of the plant.
Yes.
And so then it's even more important, I don't want to give other people horsetail starters. Yeah. They may have plenty of their own. Or the buttercups, which is common enough. There's buttercups in here. Again, that's something. Nice thing about find an old serrated edge knife, although they're not very expensive to buy new. But at the local secondhand stores, usually they have some. And they can be sharpened. Cutting on the rocks dulls them, but they're just fine. They work really well to saw through tough stuff. I don't know if you... And I'll clean this up. So there's bits and pieces here. If there's loose leaves, get rid of those. But yeah, they're rhizomes, fairly hard rhizomes here. And I'll go back to put these back in the ground, give them some space, and they will take off and grow. Pretty darn tough stuff, which is why you see it all around Juneau. But in general, there's a lot of different Julies. There's red ones, yellow ones, these pale, kind of creamy ones. Some are more purple, and others, you can take pictures of some of the different ones I've got here. And division is all the same. Timing, again, ideally after they're done blooming. So then they grow good roots, and they'll be ready to flower for next year.
Great.
Okay.
So a question, Ed. So normally, like when you transplant seedlings, you do it on kind of an overcast day.
Yes.
But then sometimes you don't have that choice.
Yes. Well, that's a good point. And yeah, so I mean, this is much more pleasant for me out here digging in this conditions. So to take these, if I put them back in the ground now, which is really the best thing for them, water them in well, and I'll use, you know, a little bit of liquid fertilizer, compost tea, or any of that stuff. Perhaps after I've already amended the bed, you know, my new propagating bed's going to get all of these full of it. So I might then also use some Rime horticultural fabric to shade that on a sunny day like this, or if we got a sunny period. Or like you say, wait till a cloudy days, or you know, it's dumping rain in buckets and I'm out here in my full rain suit. Perfect for the plants, not so good for the planter. So, you know, it's like locational timing and all that too. I've got reindeer. So that's a good start.
What's this little beauty here with the green leaves and the light green leaves?
So that is called Devon James, hybridized by a woman up in Uzinki near Kodiak, and I can't remember her name. I need to, but she was a member of the Primrose Society, and she hybridized and she named it for her son. So I've got one here, a bright yellow one that's called Kathy O'Brien. It was hybridized by John O'Brien and named after his daughter Kathy, who is still around. And she used up nutrients, so it's telling me, you know, mix in some more compost horse manure, and I'll grow and flower a lot better for you. Yeah. So the auricula primroses, have these weird looking kind of woody stems. And so, you know, I can dig that up, kind of falls apart. Again, they're just getting ready to bloom here now. So there's one that's blooming, a different kind here. But some of these, if they're not blooming, they're commonly called a carrot.
Hold on.
For fairly obvious reasons, the way they grow. They grow in the Alps, and these tough stems would grow out through the rocks and gravel that are coming down the mountain. So you can just pull them apart in this case. Sometimes you can also cut them apart, and as long as you have that, and they'll put out new roots. So it's like that little plant there is probably 5 or 6 or 7 years old, that it's grown up a little bit every year.
Wow.
So again, you can even cut it off even without roots, and they will root quite easily with or without rooting hormone. So that's one there that's, again, you can just, in this case, you can pull them apart here. They're still attached. Some are still attached together. So again, I'll pull them apart. You know, it's great if I have some roots on them. And I may, if there's any old rotten bottom parts, that will get trimmed away. But all of those are perfect for transplanting or replanting, and get out the horsetail. There's a nice, you know, which comes out pretty easily out of there. But
yeah.
It goes in between. And again, we split them up. And next year, many of these should. So here's some of the old rotten rhizome from the older plant. Discard that and replant. Then where I had one plant, now I've got 15.
Wow.
And even little tiny ones are worth doing that.